The wisest men you will ever encounter share one quality that is almost impossible to notice until you have lost something because of its absence. They are generous in many ways, but there are 5 things they guard with an almost invisible discipline, not selfishly, not coldly, but with the kind of quiet, deliberate protection that comes from having learned, usually through real loss, that certain things given freely do not return, and the people who take them rarely know what they have received. Most men move through the world with open hands. They give their time to anyone who asks loudly enough. They give their attention to anything that moves. They give their opinions to rooms that were never going to use them wisely. They give their energy to people who have made it their purpose to consume it. And then they wonder, in the quiet of their most honest moments, why they feel empty, why they feel used without anything quite adding up to being used, why the life they are living feels like it belongs to everyone except them. The answer is not complicated. They have been giving freely what should have been given carefully. And the cost of that generosity is the slow, quiet erosion of everything that makes them who they are. The first thing wise men never give freely is their time. Not in the obvious sense of staying late at a job that does not value them, though that too. In the deeper sense of allowing their hours to be claimed by the low and the urgent at the expense of the high and the important. Time is the only resource that cannot be recovered. Every other loss in a man's life has a potential remedy. A lost friendship can sometimes be repaired. A lost business can be rebuilt. A lost reputation, with enough time and character, can be restored. But a lost hour is gone completely, permanently, with no appeal and no exception. And most men treat their hours as though the supply is infinite, giving them away to distraction and obligation and the noise of other people's emergencies, as though they will somehow receive them back. They will not. Marcus Aurelius understood this with a clarity that never left him. He wrote not as a man who had an abundance of time, but as a man who felt the weight of its passing on every page. The urgency in his meditations is not the urgency of a man in a hurry. It is the urgency of a man who understood that the present hour is the only one he actually possesses. The second thing wise men guard is their inner world, their private thoughts, their real assessments of people and situations, their doubts, their fears, their evolving understanding of who they are and what they believe. Most men give this away constantly and do not realize they are doing it. They share their plans before the plans are strong enough to survive scrutiny. They speak their doubts aloud to people who will use those doubts as evidence. They confess their fears to ears that will remember them in moments of conflict. The interior world of a man is not built for public display. It is built for private use, for examination in the silence of his own honest company. Epictetus, who had every reason to broadcast his suffering, chose instead to turn inward and build something in there that no external force could reach. Not because he was hiding, because he understood that the interior world, once opened carelessly to the outside, loses something that is very difficult to rebuild. The third is their energy. And here, the wisdom becomes almost uncomfortable, because it requires the admission that not all people deserve equal amounts of you. Wise men are not unkind, but they have learned, usually through the specific exhaustion of giving energy to the wrong places, that attention and effort directed toward people who drain rather than build is not generosity. It is a slow form of self-destruction, dressed as virtue. Seneca wrote with striking directness about the men who surround themselves with crowds seeking something from each interaction and finding themselves emptier after each one. The wise man learns to feel the difference between an exchange that builds and one that consumes. And he learns to protect his energy, not because he values himself above others, but because he understands that an empty man helps no one. The most generous thing a man can do for the people who matter is to protect his capacity to be present for them by refusing to exhaust that capacity on people and situations that have no intention of returning what they take. The fourth thing wise men never give freely is their respect, not in the transactional sense of demanding to be treated well, though that matters, in the deeper sense of refusing to offer the signal of their regard to people and ideas that have not earned it. Respect given freely becomes meaningless. It inflates. It loses the weight that makes it worth having. When a man nods at everything, agrees with everyone, never pushes back, never holds a line, his approval becomes ambient noise. It tells the people receiving it nothing, but the man who withholds his respect until it is earned, who is visibly selective about what and whom he admires, whose rare agreement carries the weight of genuine conviction that man's respect means something real. People work for it. They trust it when it arrives. And they know, when it is absent, that it is absent for a reason. The fifth thing, and perhaps the most important, is their word. Their actual, considered, deliberate word. Wise men do not promise casually. They do not say yes because the room wanted a yes. They do not commit because the moment was uncomfortable and agreeing was easier than declining. They understand that every word they give away carelessly is a debt against their character, and character, unlike most things, is entirely built from the accumulation of whether a man keeps his word in the small moments when no one would notice if he did not. The man who speaks carefully, who says what he means and means what he says, who declines more often than he promises and delivers on every promise he makes. That man builds something in the world that is more valuable than any visible achievement. He builds trust, the deep, unhurried, almost geological trust that accumulates over years in the people who know him. And that trust, once built, is the foundation from which everything meaningful in his life is constructed. Here is what connects these five things. They are all forms of the self. Time is the measure of a life. The inner world is the seat of a man's identity. Energy is the substance of his presence. Respect is the expression of his judgment. And his word is the external form of his character. When a man gives any of these things freely, without discernment, without the quiet protection that wisdom requires, he is not being generous. He is being careless with himself. And a man who is careless with himself teaches everyone around him to be careless with him too. The Stoics did not speak about protection of the self as selfishness. They spoke about it as stewardship. The responsibility a man has to maintain himself as a resource for the things and people that actually matter. Marcus Aurelius did not write the Meditations for the world. He wrote them for himself, to maintain the interior machinery that allowed him to function at the level his life demanded. Seneca did not guard his hours because he valued his time above other men's time. He guarded them because he understood that the hours he spent on the trivial were hours he could not give to the important, and the important in a life of any real size always has more claim on your time than the trivial does on its own. The price of giving these things freely is not paid all at once. It is paid in small installments over years. A little less clarity here, a little more exhaustion there, a gradual shrinking of what feels possible, a slow retreat from the man you knew yourself to be when you were still protecting what mattered, until one day you look at the life you are living and realize that it is made almost entirely of what other people needed from you, and almost nothing of what you were actually put here to build. Guard what matters, not with walls, with wisdom, with the quiet, practiced, daily discipline of a man who knows what he is worth and has decided that only the things worth exchanging will receive it. That is not coldness. That is how a life stays its own.